I'm sure it's going to be expensive as shit at first. Like, like Chargers right now start at like 34,000.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing next year's Charger, that's the electric motors only, probably going to be 50 is the new starting point price, because all the electric cars are all expensive that way.
Yeah.
Which is another reason I don't have one, is because they're all still overpriced in my opinion. Unless you want a Prius, and I don't. But
I mean, closest I'll get is probably buying one of those cars in Rocket League or something. Oh, yeah. So, I you didn't see Fast X, right?
Not yet, no.
Did you watch any of the trailers?
Some. I wasn't really worried about spoilers with Fast and the Furious because it's
so like there's a
cars
whole
go
section
fast,
of the
boom,
movie
explosions,
which I know is in the trailer, but there's like this bomb that's a ball.
Yeah,
and it's like rolling down the street.
I have seen those moments in the trailer.
So there's a whole section of the movie like that where Dom's trying to get the Charger in front of the ball to stop it or redirect it, and all I could think about is this is Rocket League. It's Rocket League in the movie, and then sure enough, I'm like, man, I could really go for some Rocket League when I get home. Like but like I'm like it's whether it is intended or not. Like I'm walking out of the movie like I just want to go home and play Rocket League. So I go home, I log into Rocket League. Sure enough, there's fucking Fast and Furious packs in the store for the movie. The Charger's there. So it worked. I bought a fucking digital Charger to play in Rocket League just because I was like, well, that looks like fucking fun. I'm going to do it now.
Oh my God.
Worth it. Totally worth it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and his Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is a fellow survivor of the Jedi Purge, Mike Bradley.
Hey there, I'm here. We're going to talk about a video game. It's different this time because it's a video game and, not a movie.
And you got an intro this time. You like that one? Did I pass the test?
Well, it was for both of us, so it worked. It was,
All right.
A fellow survivor that,
That's true. I guess I didn't. It sort of includes me in that too. So I got my own. Very rarely do I get my own intro, sort of. So yeah.
I should start doing
Two birds
that
with one stone. Yeah.
For you each episode that I'm on, at least.
Oh, like I'll try to give one for you guys, then you come around and give me one at the end.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the part of the deal is I have to try to figure out one for you guys. So we'll see if I even get that far. We'll see what happens.
See, if I remember to do it, you're getting one next time. But that's a big if.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way. So this could be the once in a month type of thing that happens. All right, so here we are. We got, like Mike said, we got another Star Wars stuff to talk about, this time a video game themed episode. So we're going to sit down and try to talk about some Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This is Respawn's sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from 2019. So this is the continued adventures of Cal Kestis and the Mantis crew. Honestly, I didn't really have any intention of turning this into an episode, but I finished the main story recently and actually couldn't stop thinking about the game. And the more I was sort of like looking at other stuff, it just kind of gave me the urge to really kind of want to talk about it. And out of our podcast crew, like the only other person to really get through the game so far is Mike. I know.
Even play either of the two games at all.
Right.
To be clear, the others have not even attempted any of this yet.
Yeah, I mean, we know Josh is off the table. He doesn't play stuff, so it's fine. We kind of accepted that. But both Andy and Ian both said Fallen Order is basically on their back catalog of games to get through, that they haven't played the first one and didn't want to jump into the second one. So, that's fine. So it's just two of us this time. Oh, yeah. I will. I did want to. I'll plug up top too. I will use this to plug my Twitch channel. I was talking about it in previous episodes. I streamed my entire playthrough of Jedi Survivor on my Twitch channel. So it came out to, I think, 11 different videos that I don't remember what the hours were. Probably 30-ish hours worth of stuff that I played through. So if you want to see any of that, feel free to hit my Twitch page up. It's Jedi Bry Guy, Jedi with an I, Bry with a Y. You can go through the videos tab, look for Jedi Survivor stuff. I tried to, I think, put all the videos in a collection there. So if you're curious, hopefully you can just find a Star Wars collection on the page and all the videos will be there. I'll have to double check that they are there. By the time this goes up, they will be there if they're not already.
Got to work with you to get you a YouTube page. You can auto upload those to a YouTube.
Yeah, it's something else. Yeah, something else to maybe do.
They have things that'll do that for you. It's kind of cool.
So either way, if you're curious about what my playthrough was like, or if you're curious about the game and want to check it out, you can check the page out and see what it was like playing through that game. For anyone that's unfamiliar with the games, so these are Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, both third-person action-adventure games set in the Star Wars universe. They are, I guess I would describe them as Souls-like games, right? I would.
Yeah, they fall under that category.
Okay.
When we get into discussing more about the game, I can expound on that a bit more. But they fall into that category, yes.
So there's some combat, there's some light RPG type elements, platforming, traversal, puzzles.
Resting at a save point resets all the enemies. That's a big one for a Souls-like. Is when you rest, things get reset.
It's somewhat open world, but also kind of linear at the same time. Like, they give you a planet and stuff to explore, but you can't just go everywhere. You're still running into walls, and it's still trying to direct you certain places.
I would call that like Metroidvania style in the game, where you're going to unlock abilities that allow you to access areas that you saw, but you couldn't reach before.
Yeah, there's a lot of backtracking that can happen with some of this stuff, too. So there's, the story will take you away from a planet, and then you'll get an ability that leads you right back to the same planet again to do some other stuff. So you're going back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
The story takes place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. I think Fallen Order is 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. Survivor is set 5 years after that, so it's right smack in the middle of Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. So we are at the height of the Empire. Again, you play as Cal Kestis, who is a Jedi that survived the Purge and is now on the run while being hunted by the Inquisitors and the Empire. And that's about the gist of the story that I'm going to give you up front. So I'm going to treat this episode just sort of like we do with our review episodes. So we'll sort of talk generally at first about the game. I'll throw out the spoiler warning, and we'll get into story specifics of kind of what happens and cool shit that we want to talk about. So, Mike, up front, generally speaking, so again, no story specifics, and just in case anybody hasn't played either of the games, what did you think? Because I know you've played Fallen Order too, so what did you think of sort of both games overall?
So I'll start out by explaining what I meant with the Souls-like kind of thing.
Okay.
And the first time around with Fallen Order, I think they improved on the combat, which is, I think, still where these games, in terms of gameplay, fall behind a Souls game, is they feel very scripted in terms of combat. I think I mentioned this to Brian before when we had talked about the game, obviously not on a show, where a lot of combat sequences seem to end in scripted moments, and it seems like even for just common enemies, it has scripted finishers that just happen, whether you want them to or not. And it felt to me like a lot in the combat in this game in particular was taking over at the end of a encounter with an enemy for you, whereas the first game didn't. And this might be the only thing about the combat that I actually prefer from the first game.
Okay.
Was not having that. Like, I get, there's dismemberment in this game, and I think they wanted a lot of that to be controlled by them, as opposed to just randomly allowing limbs and stuff to fall off, and it would be like very funny and janky, but not really fitting for the Star Wars universe. So I think that's why they went that route. And I think where that differs from Souls games is just they're much more fluid in letting you do whatever the hell you want and go wherever the hell you can manage to get. And the combat is much more open, I think, and less reliant on abilities or scripting or anything like that. So they feel
really like
different.
What a more variety of weapons and stuff too, right?
Well, yeah, like and that's definitely the case. In a Souls game, you've got magic, you've got everything from as small as a dagger to a brick hammer the size of a small car that it just goes to the ridiculous lengths. That's also not part of the Star Wars universe. At least not a game like this. If it was a more open RPG where you create a character and they might be a Jedi, they might be a brawler, they might be a scoundrel type like Han Solo. There's a lot of possibilities there, maybe in future games like this that don't follow one specific character, I think there would be possibilities for them to explore that. But for
Yeah,
now,
because you're shoehorned in a little bit just from being a Jedi character. It's like, well, we got to get this guy a lightsaber. He's a Jedi, so now you're stuck with a lightsaber.
right, and I mean that's really the draw to a Star Wars game, especially like come use a lightsaber. Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not complaining that I'm only using a lightsaber because it's probably all I would use anyways
Right.
if the options were there for other things. I just think like I said, like I don't know, like the scripted endings to a lot of the encounters I felt were like, okay. But anyways, back to general thoughts between the two games. This is definitely an improvement on the first game. In terms of a lot of quality of life things that were kind of needed for the first game. I will say this felt easier than the first one did, and I think that could be down to it being a little bit more fluid. I feel like, I don't know, it almost felt like input lag a lot of the time with Fallen Order that I really didn't get as much with this one, where it felt like I pressed a button for like parrying or attacking and it happened right away. And I feel like for whatever reason Fallen Order had some kind of input lag going on where things felt slightly delayed.
Yeah.
Less responsive. Still good, just not as responsive as I'd like.
Okay.
But yeah, all around, I mean, this is definitely a step up. The abilities you get, the Metroidvania stuff that wasn't in the first game really, where like the backtracking and all that, I really felt like that wasn't as much of a part.
See, I felt like I backtracked a lot in Fallen Order. And I don't know if maybe that was just the path that I sort of chose to get through things, and it required me to go back and forth a lot, but I felt like I was retreading a lot of ground in Fallen Order when I played it. I mean, I kind of did the same thing here, but I think the fast travel points help in this game a lot.
Yes, the fast travel points are really important, and I feel like the backtracking that you're doing in this game is more so like, oh yeah, I saw that thing. I wonder if this ability will help me go get that thing now.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first time around, it was like, I have to go back the way I came because I have to go back the way I came.
Right,
like, I don't
right.
have a choice. So for instance, in this, I mean, just like the first game, you have to fly around the system in a ship, and you have a fast travel point right back to your ship. So you can go to these further reaching parts of planets than you could in Fallen Order, and then just fast travel back to your ship. Once you just have to make your way back to a save point, and then you can fast travel back to your ship.
Yeah.
As opposed to running for 20 minutes to get back to your ship. It's a big quality of life thing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of time wasted in Fallen Order just trying to backtrack and get to where I needed to go.
Yes. However, one thing that the series still needs, and hopefully if, there's a third game coming down someday, maybe there is, maybe there's not. But something they need is waypoint markers wherever I want to put them that show me how to go where I need to go. I got so lost so many times on just figuring out, oh, look, there's a crack in the wall there that I'm supposed to just guess exists. That happens so many times, or finding myself in a room that it has a puzzle in it, and I think I'm advancing the main story quest, and it turns out I'm in the wrong place entirely, and I'm just going for a collectible at the end of the puzzle. And it's like, it needed more direction on, how to get where you're going.
Yeah.
Or just less little crevices to crawl through, or, very specific pathing to get there.
So I don't know. I know there was an option with the map that was supposed to like sort of lead your path. Like if you are trying to get somewhere, if you enter a room, as soon as you're in there, I know when I had the option on, I don't remember what the option was, but
I did too.
If I would get into a room, it would sort of lead like a dotted line to kind of tell me, oh, okay, I can traverse on the wall here to get around, or I can jump up to this point. Like the map's trying to tell me I have the right abilities to get to where I need to go.
Mine didn't do that for me. Like, I don't know if it was just weird or if it's buggy because it's a new game, and pretty much every game that releases now is buggy. But it wasn't really... I don't know. I was having a difficult time with pathing. And I even ran into one spot where I wasn't soft-locked, but I had to kill myself.
Okay.
Because as long as you can die, you're not soft-locked in this game, because it'll spawn you back to, wherever you
Right,
last
right.
saved. But I hit a spot in a puzzle where I did the puzzle wrong, but I couldn't reach any safe platform from where I was, and I was just stuck on this platform that I was on, and the only option was to jump off the ledge until my health was gone. Because,
Okay.
it takes a chunk of your health and then spawns you back up at the
Right,
top.
right.
So I had to jump off the ledge a few times and die, which was a little bit annoying, but I did it to myself by doing the puzzle wrong. But there was also nothing telling you how, you know what I mean? No clear direction of what the goal of the puzzle was to begin with.
The puzzle song is always the hardest part for me. Like I like it when I get there and it's like, ooh, I can figure this out. And then after 10 minutes, I'm like, I can't figure this out. Fuck, what do I do? And then I got to go to YouTube and try to have someone tell me what to do because I just don't want to be stuck anymore. So some of those got to me after a while. But I think that happened in Fallen Order too. And even like Uncharted is one of my favorite games. And I still, some of those puzzles, don't remember how to do it when I get there. And I just don't want to waste the time sitting there in one room for half an hour trying to figure out a puzzle. So I just someone tell me how to do it and I just want to move on.
See, I like the puzzles when the puzzles make sense, and I feel like they tried to include too many of them here for them all to make sense. That they like all to be like linear logic or
Yeah.
logic that's simple to figure out how you're supposed to get to the end or where you're supposed to go.
Well, there's so many times too where I encounter a puzzle, like especially with when you finally start to see there's like a fungus that's in the game, and there's a specific like energy blast that clears the fungus. So you start seeing it, and you'll get to a room where there's like this energy blast, and you can tell what it's doing, that you need it to get to a certain point to disperse this fungus stuff. And I sat there for probably 10 or 15 minutes, like trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I maneuver this laser to go where I need it to go? And I just didn't have the ability to make it work yet. It's an upgrade that you need further in the game that will then allow you to sort of redirect stuff. But I didn't know that. So I'm just wasting time looking around like, I don't know what to do and why this isn't working. And the game just kind of wants you to, it just kind of lets you stumble and figure it out, which can be fun for some people. But when you're just trying to, I guess, move on, and if you don't have the patience for it, maybe I could see it being a little bit frustrated, which is, I know I get that way a little bit.
When
so
you don't
there's
have
that.
the ability to solve a puzzle, it should pop up and say like, "Hey, maybe try this later," or or have like BD pop up and say something to Cal, and Cal just be like, "Yeah, you know what? I bet we need something to figure how to do this. I bet we're missing something."
So there's a point I want to make about that, but I think it's going to go a little bit into spoilery stuff. So I'm going to try to save it and try to remember to put a pin in it and come back to it.
Yeah.
About like what the game is telling you can and can't do. So I'll try to come back to that.
I kind of know where you're going with that already.
Okay.
But
We'll see if we're on the same, if we thought the same thing when some of those moments happened.
the same fungusy stuff that you ran into, there was another spot much later into the game where, man, like what you had to do was so ridiculous, and they made it seem even more ridiculous than it was. And I was trying, so like they give you a tool in the game that allows you to kind of manipulate this stuff a little bit, and there's a window that I'm peeking through trying to do that, and it doesn't want you to do that. It wants you to platform around the building instead of trying to shoot, through the window to get to the thing you need to do the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you got to platform all the way around this building. But we showed you this, the thing that you need to do, and we showed you the stuff that it does, the fungus you need to clear. It's like, here's that, here's the thing that you use to clear the fungus, and you have the tool to connect the two things to make it clear it, but you're not supposed to do it from here. You're supposed to know that you jump outside the building and go all the way around. It's like, how the fuck am I supposed to know that? I spent 20 minutes in this room trying to figure out how I'm going to connect these things, or how the door opens so that I could get to the thing, and I'm like, it had some pacing issues on their puzzles, like I said, where it just felt like maybe a few too many puzzles in this one.
Yeah.
Like the puzzles in the first one, I would say were better because they weren't every 5 minutes.
I guess I don't think there was as many too. Like
That's
I remember
what I mean.
a couple
Like,
puzzles really giving me some issues, like the
wind
when
and
you're on
the
the ice
balls.
planet. Yeah, for Ilium, I think, and you're trying to figure out the light you need to redirect to certain places to melt ice. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah,
I can't.
that one.
Oh, that one took me way too long, too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, frustrations aside, I think both of these games have such fantastic stories that I fucking love both of them a lot. The combat, I think, it's not like this. We've talked about it before. Souls-like games are not really something that I play. I can find them very frustrating, even just watching people play them. I think I get frustrated, and if I'm stuck on my biggest issue is getting to an encounter, getting stuck on a boss, and getting very frustrated on this one specific boss that I can't beat or can't figure out the timing or how to parry or block or dodge or whatever. And that's the part that just drives me insane. And it happened a few times in this game. But for the most part, the combat I really enjoy, even that stuff aside. And I think I enjoyed the combat a lot more in Survivor. I think, like Mike was saying, I think everything just feels a lot more polished and fluid, and it's a lot more enjoyable to play, I think, in Survivor, even with those frustrations aside.
Right.
Because I know that's a me problem. Like, I know the game is doing it to me on purpose. I know it's just my reaction to what the game is forcing me to do. And so I just have to find a way to deal with it, I guess. But everything aside from that was really, really fun. I think traversal was something else that I think felt much more fluid. There's certain portions of the game where they give you like a sidekick character to help you out, which I thought was really fucking cool.
That was a nice addition.
They give you more lightsaber stances in this game than they did in the first one, which are all really fun to use and try out also. A lot more customization, which I love my customization. Like even being able to customize the look of Cal. Like you're not just stuck in like you could change a little bit of his outfits in the first one, but there was a lot more variation to his customization in this game. You could change facial features and stuff too.
I was able to run around with a mohawk. Yeah, I mean, like it's you can change his hair, his facial hair. Like that's really it, isn't it? It's just hair and facial hair.
Facial hair. Yeah,
because he still has to be Cal underneath it. But
right.
But that's a nice addition, and I think there was more pieces of clothing this time because you had like a jacket and a shirt and pants and.
Before it was just like ponchos, like you could change the ponchos. That's it.
Yeah.
And the other point I want to make too, the writing in this game, Survivor specifically, actually had me laughing numerous times, and from different characters that you encounter, certain ways they're written. One of them specifically, when you meet Turgle, if you don't fucking love Turgle, I don't know what's wrong with you. Turgle is the fucking best in this game. I fucking love Turgle. Even the when you eventually get to like a cantina and there's a robot bartender that I think had a very good kind of witty sense of humor for a droid too, that I found really entertaining to listen to him talk too.
I liked the cosmetics vendor lady that was in the other building across from the cantina. That was just
Dorma?
Yeah. Like she was this giant, like she just sounded like a yokel from the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, basically just like, oh, you want that there? Okay. And it's just what the hell is this? And I'm like, wait, it's the Outer Rim. This makes sense.
There's two characters that are like outside the cantina on Kobo. And one of them I think looks like almost like a tall snail that I think that character design was in one of the Star Wars movies. So I don't know what the species is called, but we've definitely seen that type of character before. But it's that guy and a human that are talking to each other, and so you can butt into their conversations and talk to them. And at one point, like, I think they're talking about how they just like, oh crap, now I'm starting to second guess if it's these guys or if it's people in the cantina. But either way, there's a conversation that you have with side characters where they talk about how they hated each other, but then they find one dude that was like such a loser that they both made fun of him together, and then they bonded over their shared hatred or made fun of this other third guy that you don't know who they are. Like stuff like that just builds the world and makes it really fun to just go talk to people. Oh, and the fisherman guy that you meet, that is his name is Scuba Steve.
Oh,
which is very basically Scuba Steve.
Yeah.
Which I thought he is great. Like he was fantastic.
There's a lot of side characters that the first game didn't have. Like little side quest missions where you're going to go and meet some random character for 5 minutes and then they're gone again. The first game didn't have much of that. Or any of that I can really remember clearly. Because I have not replayed it.
Definitely, I haven't replayed it either since I beat it. And I, like, after playing this, I do kind of want to go back and play Fallen Order again. But what's probably going to happen first is I will probably replay Survivor first before I even try to go back to Fallen Order, because I liked Survivor that much. But I do think, Survivor rewards a lot of your exploration more. And if you take the time to talk to some of the side characters, I think you'll be rewarded with just some funny little side bits that really have no bearing on the rest of the story. I mean, some of them will give you side missions if you talk to certain characters. They will give you a hint of something else to discover in the world, which helps you in the meantime. But just to have like dialogue and different conversations with these people, I think it's really fun.
Yeah, and it works. This is something, again, that you go back to the Souls-like thing, and this is actually very similar to a mechanic in Dark Souls 2, and I believe it was partially in 3, where like these little missions that you do out in the world for these people, and then they come back to your hub. So like there is a hub in the game that's maybe not as blatantly a hub as some other things, but there is, at the cantina, you meet these people in the world, and a lot of them will come back and be permanent fixtures at the cantina. And that's something that they pulled from these Souls-like games, and they made much better use of it, in my opinion, than Souls ever did. Souls was just like, okay, now the vendor's here, instead of being at the part of the world they were in. But that's also 11 years ago when they made Dark Souls 2, so things are getting better. But yeah, they pulled that, and it's a really cool thing that they did, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. That it wasn't just, oh, do this and then it's done. It was do this and then you can go and interact with these people later, and they may not have anything more for you to do, but they're still there.
Right. I know the game had a bit of a rocky launch. Like it was making waves just for some of the stuff that's broken, not working, especially on PC. I don't know how many problems it sort of had on consoles. I think it was hit or miss based on people, or maybe just instances. Some people were fine, some people weren't. But did you have any technical issues while playing, and what platform did you play on?
I played it on PlayStation 5.
Okay.
I don't know if it came out for PS4. I don't actually know if they did.
I don't think
last
so,
gen
but I could be
this
wrong.
time around. But I only really, in terms of like technical bugs, I ran into one my whole playthrough that was what I feel like was an actual technical bug. And that was just, I was just running along and fell through the map. Like I just, character was just falling forever. I had to turn the game off and turn it. Like I didn't even die. There was no death screen. There was no death barrier. It was just falling into the nothingness of whatever void is created there. But that was only once.
I feel like there was an instance where I think I got stuck on a wall once. I did have a hard crash at one point, trying to get into, I think it might have been leaving one of the planets for the first time and going to another destination. I got on the Mantis, I went to the holo map, and then it just crashed. So luckily, when I came back in, it saved right there, and I could pick up where I left off. But if it was somewhere in the middle of the game doing something and it crashed and I lost a bunch of progress, I'd probably be pissed. But that wasn't too bad, all things considered.
Do you know how many times I replayed sections of Elder Scrolls Oblivion because of that? Because the game would randomly crash, and it's like, oh yeah, those last 2.5 hours are gone.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I think I was trying to run mine I was playing on Series X. I was trying to run mine, I think, on performance mode, which was supposed to be doing 60 frames a second, which is hit or miss. Like, you could tell the frames dipped when you're in certain areas or doing certain things, so it wasn't hitting what it was supposed to. Graphically, I felt like it looked really good, but it wasn't as crisp as I wanted it to do, but that's probably just because of the mode I was on. Like, if I go to the graphics setting, it might make some of the visuals look a little bit crisper and not as, like, sort of hazy. Like, there were certain instances I feel like Cal had some sort of, like, visual haze around him that I noticed based on some things. But, again, overall, I'm mentioning the bugs just because they happened, and I know it was making headlines for that, but I also don't want it to distract people. Like, I think these are very minimal things compared to my enjoyment of the game. Like, a lot of this stuff does not distract from my enjoyment of the game and what I've had to do to play through it. And so I don't know if you had anything that really hung you up, but I like, it happened to me, but I'm okay with it.
So I guess, yeah, Pokemon was last year. This game and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, to me, are two games that came out to these, and it shows that, like, the difference in reception for a game that's good anyways will still be good. And that happened where, that game ran a lot worse than this does, and obviously it's a Pokemon game, so it's not really trying to do as much as this game is
Yeah.
graphically. But it was a great game and people forgave it because it was a fun game. And I feel the same way about this. Like, yeah, it could have visually been a lot better, but I feel like this was trying maybe to do too much graphically, is why
Yeah.
it had its performance issues. And I've seen this popping up quite a bit lately, where even on PC, you're seeing a lot of new games pop up. Not all new games are doing this. Some companies, I guess, have somebody reining things in and being like, hey, we need this to work on, you know, a lot of different hardware for a PC, not just the maximum currently possible.
Right.
Um, but, this game on PC came out, and I think it was very similar to, like, its reception on PC was poor because its requirements were ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there was another game that came under a lot of heat for that because it was like, I'm trying to remember the name of that game, but it's,
I mean, Last of Us on PC was real shitty too.
well, this was actually a PlayStation PC exclusive game, and I cannot remember the name of it.
Okay.
But it had the same kind of requirements that this did, where, they're saying if you want to get, 4K, 30 frames a second, you're going to need a 4080. And it's like, I'm going to need a what to get 30 frames a second? Now, that's at 4K, and then they're like, but at 1080, you can get 60 frames a second with a 4070. That's our minimum requirement. It's like, that's a minimum requirement for 1080,
Yeah.
60 frames? And it's crazy how high the requirements are becoming, and that's a lot of the reason you're seeing performance issues, is because I feel like they're kind of shooting for the stars with some of these games. Forspoken, by the way, that's the name of the
Okay.
other one. But they're shooting for the stars and what they can produce visually for the games. And, on PC, a lot of people are running not even 30 series NVIDIA cards in that generation. Most people are still running before that, prior to that. And, even a 3080 is more powerful by about double than a Series X. And they're saying, no, you need a 4080. And it's like, why do you think the consoles are having performance issues? And why do you think it's poorly optimized for PC? It's because they're trying to make it for the top end. And
So I want to defend a little bit because I this argument is coming up a lot more recently just because I think games are releasing with a lot of bugs. And I try to jump to the defense of developers and just from their side. And this is the argument I've heard from them and stuff that I've read online. So like PC, it's very difficult for a team of even 100, 150, maybe 200 people on the development side to test a game for every specific iteration that someone might have on their PC, because PC is so mix and match. It's very difficult to figure out every variation that people have and make sure
Sure.
the game is going to run. And
except that devs did that for like decades before the last 5 years.
well, I think
that's the issue I take with them saying that.
I think it's more that I don't know. I guess I always feel like there's more, or maybe it's just the way that the PCs upgrade that quickly that it's too difficult to, games take so long to be developed that by the time they're working on it now, 2 years later when the game releases, all the specs for PCs are going to be so far upgraded that it's like now you got to account for that when you went in development under one way, and now 2 years later you got to try to pivot to what's new. So I think that can be an issue. And I know consoles still have an issue too with some of these games when they launch. And that goes down to, oh, they should have tested this or they should have tested the bugs. It's like, even for a development team of 100 people, they might have 50 playtesters that are there to test the game, put it through a paces, try to break it so they can find the bugs and fix it before it releases. 50 people are not going to amount to the thousands and hundreds of thousands or millions of people.
Right.
They're going to play the game day one and then suddenly find all the stuff that these 50 people missed.
I forgive bugs. I'm much more harsh on performance issues. Because performance issues, a game runs on a PC in terms of performance the same.
Yeah.
Its performance is going to be based on the processing power, not based on any NVIDIA specific things versus AMD or, it's going to be based on what you're engineering the game to function best on.
Right.
And I understand the PC market's much bigger than it ever was before. And so that means there's a lot more people wanting games that normally would have had delayed releases on PC in a lot of cases.
Right.
And now they want them day one. And so that, I think, is what's causing more of this, because the average PC gamer does not have a PC built to keep up with Xbox Series X and PS5. The average person is, I think they said like a 2070 or a 2060 is like the average or, middle point if you want to look at what PC gamers are using today. Meaning half of the people are using stuff less than that, and half are using something better. So they run into, a lot of PCs that people are using just aren't up to the task. And, when you, like, I want to say they said like a 3070 is roughly the equivalent of the PS5 and Series X. So that's what they're really developing these games for, is that range. And then, I don't know, like, it just seems like I have gravitated away from buying games on PC. Like, I have a great gaming PC, and I've gravitated away from it because of all the bugs and stuff that occur when you buy in on PC these days.
Yeah.
So it's something that the industry has to work out how to solve. Like, a game that's functional and has bugs, I'm cool with. A game that runs at 20 frames a second in, say, not even 4K, but 2K, you've got something that needs some work somewhere. It's like something needs to be done to fix that.
And I think PlayStation might have a better handle on it, I think, than the Xbox. I think the Xbox is still trying to make games run on previous gen stuff. I don't think Jedi Survivor did, but I know they're running into that issue with certain places. They are really trying to do the Play Anywhere stuff, where as long as you own an Xbox, like an Xbox One or a Series X or S, that you can sort of play all the same games. Well, for the developer, that's kind of a headache, because now you're not making a game for one specific hardware setup. Now you have to do it for a lesser gen hardware setup, and that makes the newer gen stuff, the current stuff, suffer, because now you have to sort of cater for the older stuff too.
I mean, that's what happened to Cyberpunk. Like, it was made for the current gen, and they were forced by the publisher, or not by the publishers, but by Sony and Microsoft, to make it available for PS4 and for Xbox One. And they did, and it ran horribly on them because they didn't make it for that.
Yeah.
They were told you must release it. And it's like, well, all right, it's going to blow their consoles up, but okay.
It's like Sony, I know, has drawn a better line in the sand between PS4 and PS5, so their games, you can, I think, run a little bit better, and you can notice a little bit difference on PS5. Xbox One S and X, well, X specifically, is supposed to be the most powerful console on the market right now, but I still have yet to get a lot of games that are running 60 frames a second, which is something we were promised for this console and games coming out. So, yeah. So
the Xbox One X was when they promised, like back when they upgraded the Xbox One, was they like, it can do 60 frames now.
Oh, yeah.
This was saying you can do 4K at 60 frames, was the thing.
Right.
4K at 60 frames. Not just 60 frames, it can now do it in 4K.
So we still haven't really got there. But
well, I know Xbox themselves said the first next-gen game that they, from their publishers, that's being made as an Xbox exclusive, that is going to leave the old gen behind and be 100% current gen, is going to be the next Forza. And that's coming sometime at the end of summer or fall. They haven't put a date on it yet. But they have said...
Well, we'll see. Showcase is coming up, I think, next week or 10 days or something. So, be looking forward to that.
That, by the way, if you're interested, they're also dropping the numbers. This is Forza Motorsport again. The last one was 7, I believe.
Oh, right. Yeah.
This will technically be the 8th game, but they're dropping the number. So,
all right.
I don't know why. But...
all right, sorry, we got sidetracked with video game shit. So, real quick, one other sort of non-spoilery thing. So, at the beginning of this game, they do get like, for anyone that hasn't played Fallen Order, you do get like a catch-up cutscene of, hey, this is what happened in the first game before you jump into this game. just from your opinion, Mike, if somebody wanted to jump into Jedi Survivor, would you recommend that they're okay skipping Fallen Order to just do this one, or you think it'd be better if they went back and played Fallen Order?
Did you watch that cutscene? Because I skipped it.
So
that's what would matter for me. I didn't watch that to know how well it catches them up.
So I jumped in to try to play it, and I was not streaming at the time. I was trying to tell myself I'm going to stream it. I booted up the game just to make sure it was loaded and ready to go. And it started the cutscene, and I said, no, shit, I don't want to see it. And I shut the game off.
And it never played it.
When I went to stream it, I booted up the game. It didn't do that. It skipped the cutscene completely. Now, I think there's a way from the menu to go back and watch it, and I think I did that at some point, maybe off stream. I think the cutscene is very well done, and I think it does a pretty good job of summing up that stuff, like the major story beats in the first game.
Okay.
However, I think I'd still probably recommend someone try Fallen Order and try to get through it before Jedi Survivor. I think Jedi Survivor is the better game for sure, but I think you'll appreciate a lot of the improvements more if you will go through and play Fallen Order first before getting to Survivor. And I think the story is very good in Fallen Order that it's worth playing the whole game through. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, in that respect, I would say it depends on what you're playing the game for. If you're playing for the story itself, technically you don't got to play either of these games. You can just watch all the story cutscenes on YouTube or something.
That's true.
But the first game, I would say, still has my favorite boss fight. So if you're in it for the combat and you're in it for that kind of thing, I think that boss fight is worth playing the game for. That is an optional boss fight in the first one named Terran Malicos. It's a lot of fun, worth tracking down. This one, I mean, if you're okay with missing the story, other than that fight, the first one, gameplay-wise, I think is far enough behind this that, you know, it's okay to just get the story and hop into this one. I think you're okay.
I don't remember what the difficulty ranges were on the first game. If they have like a story mode difficulty where it makes the combat a little bit easier just to get you through the story. I don't remember.
I don't remember if they had that or not. I'm assuming they probably did, but I mean, this one, they just have like Jedi Knight, Padawan, Master, and then didn't they have something like above Jedi Master for this one?
Like a Grandmaster or something, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they had that in the first one. I don't think Grandmaster was there. But I can't remember for sure. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But it might have been something like you had to beat the game on one of the other modes to unlock Grandmaster or something.
Which, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way they did it.
But
all right, I think that's good enough for the general stuff. We're gonna get into some spoiler stuff. So, if you have not played this game, we're gonna dive into story. For this one, most likely some Fallen Order stuff as well. So if you don't want spoiled any of the story elements for either of those games, pause this now, come back after finishing those games or watching the YouTube cutscenes or whatever you want to do. It could take some time, but don't worry, we're gonna be here. We're not going anywhere. We'll be paused and ready for you whenever you're ready. So if you'd rather listen anyway, we'll be happy to have you. Even though I think seeking out spoilers is blasphemous to me, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Either way, spoilers to follow.
Wee-oo, spoiler. Wee-oo, spoiler. Something like that.
All right, so we are into spoiler territory. The first question I feel like I want to start with you, Mike. Rick, the door technician, is that the best Easter egg in this game? That was a laugh out loud moment for me, and I fucking love the way they set that up.
Yeah, that was amazing. And the fact that, I was hoping... So, this is something that they may have thrown in for a game that you haven't played as well. Because you haven't played Elden Ring.
Correct.
So the first boss you run into in Elden Ring is the tutorial boss. And his name is Soldier of Godric. And over time, in the zeitgeist of fandom, if you will, for Elden Ring, he became known as Rick, Soldier of God.
Oh.
Because he's just like Rick the door technician, where you just annihilate him. He has no health. It's just he's dead kind of moment.
Yeah.
But yes, that you were talking about laugh out loud moments, that is the one that got me the most. Because it pops up a boss name for Rick the door technician, and the whole
He's
boss
at the end of this
gauge.
long hallway and calls you out I'm the last one left. I'm going to get you. And then he starts pacing towards you as the enemy boss health bar pops up with the big name.
And yeah, you're expecting
who's
Rick?
this?
Wait.
Who's Rick?
Rick.
And then the first thing I tried to do was like grab him in the force and pull him towards me, and it worked.
Yeah,
And then I just
he's
stabbed
dead.
him with the lightsaber, and that was it.
Yeah.
It was so anticlimactic that it was funny as hell.
Yep. And I love that they threw it in there just for the hell of it. Just as like somebody was like, this will be funny. People will love this. And they were right, because it was unexpected. They didn't do anything else like that in the entire game, and it was just like, oh, hell.
I was watching Greg Miller and Barrett from Kinda Funny on YouTube watching their spoiler cast review, and they were talking about Respawn for the embargo specifically said, like in the NDA or whatever they were talking about, do not mention Rick the door technician at all. Like, don't fucking talk about him at all. That's one thing we want to keep saved for the game. So that was something that was, I think, a very good kept secret, and I had no idea that was going to happen. I fucking loved it.
Yeah, it was a complete surprise. And like I said, like, throwing it for Elden Ring, naming him Rick, was just amazing.
Yeah. All right, so for the story, what did you think of the story?
I feel like it, like, I'm a little bit in both ways on the story. In so much that I love the characters. Grease is fucking awesome. I love Grease.
Yeah.
He, like, to me, he's like a better Babu Frick. Like, he's just, I don't know. I love him. I felt like actually Marin was the one that fell flat for me this time around. I feel like in the first game she had much more motivation and stuff going on that like made her more interesting the first time around. This time it was, I don't know, she was too sidekicky for me.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of maybe as much backstory or fill-in time with her. And I know there's like a tie-in novel that takes place between these two games, which I did not read.
Right.
So it might set up a little bit more of where these characters are at and what they're going through by the time you get to this game. But so there's more lore out there, I guess, for anyone that's interested.
Right. And that's something that like this game actually has inspired me to go and finally get on reading the High Republic novels.
I was going to ask if this was, since this had High Republic elements to it, if this was enough to push you over the edge.
Well, like, I've had the book sitting there, and I read the first chapter a long time ago, and it just, like, there wasn't a hook in that first chapter for me that got me really geared to read it.
Yeah.
But, this game has done that because it made it put some kind of conflict toward the High Republic, which was something that was, I think, missing in my consideration of that era, because it's, this golden age of the Republic, supposedly, where everything's bright and shiny and there's not really a whole lot of conflict.
Yeah.
And, there's cutscenes here that show, they don't really name the foes that attack, that are shown attack. I guess they're on Kobo at the time, or was that on Tanalorr?
Tanalorr. They were on Tanalorr.
They were on Tanalorr? Okay, so they don't really show or name or talk about who they were.
Yeah.
But that moment alone, I'm like, oh shit, now I gotta read. I gotta find out, like, I'm hoping there's something in those novels that I can be like, oh, that's who that is. Oh shit. Now I'm kind of hooked more because there's more, there's an actual hook to what's going on.
And I was curious, too, if the characters that we encounter in this game are going to be in the novels, or if they're created for the game. That's what I wasn't sure either. Which I didn't want to look up, but...
Like Kree.
Like, it'd be...
Or is that her name?
Yeah.
Kree?
So Centauri, right? Centauri Kree.
Yeah.
And Dagon, or Dagon...
Gara.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was the
Dagon
bad
Gara.
guy.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't read enough of the book to tell you that for sure yet. And there is like 3, I think, in that High Republic series, and then there's other tie-ins.
You're doing Light of the Jedi, right? That was the book you have?
The first one they released on the High Republic series.
Okay. So I was looking at books to get for that too, because I actually bought a High Republic book myself. I bought one called Convergence, because when I looked at the book in the bookstore, they have like the old, like the EU did this too, in the old like Legends canon for Star Wars books. You would open the first couple pages, and there would be a timeline of where the books happen in chronological order. Convergence came out after Light of the Jedi. Light of the Jedi was the first High Republic book, but it's a prequel book and takes place before the Light of the Jedi. So that was the first one I got to try to read chronologically, at least as far as the timeline that I saw.
Okay.
So I think as of right now, unless they release some more books or where else they fall, the timeline I saw, there was 2 books, I think, that take place before Light of the Jedi. Whether or not they're the same characters, they might be different characters, but they chronologically take place a little bit before that. So I did start with that one. I haven't started it yet, but...
Okay. Well, we can each read our books
Convergence
in
was the one,
different orders and swap, and there you go.
Yeah. Because I think I've been curious about that era, and the fact that we got some High Republic stuff in this game, I think just piqued my interest a little bit more, just to see kind of what it was like back then and what they were trying to do and what the Jedi were going through. I think that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, with these characters, I think it's just fun to revisit. And Cal, I think, is a really good character. Like you said, Grease is awesome. Marin, I would agree, didn't really get as much to do or time to shine as I would like. She had some really fucking awesome moments in the story, in the game, but nothing was like character building wise.
Yeah,
like
there was
you
cool
can tell she's
moments.
grown as a character, but it's just like I'd like to know a little bit more there.
Yeah, and my guess is they're probably trying to sell that book you said took place in between, or maybe her own book at some point that they're going to try to release to be like,
which, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Where the hell did all these powers she has now come from? You know, like, she's doing a lot of stuff here that's like, what the hell? Like, I know, you know, the Night Sisters have some cool abilities and stuff, but some of the stuff she's doing, I never saw Night Sisters pull off before, if I can recall.
Yeah, I mean, they can play around a little bit more with that side of the Force, since it's just more or less magic. Like, they just do a lot of magic shit, so
Right.
it's just they can sort of bend the rules a little bit more. Which there's a sequence in the game where I think it's on Jeddah with the big drill.
Yeah, where you're
And then
just
she like starts teleporting you around everywhere. I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, what the hell's going on?
yeah, you're just Superman flying through. It's like fly through her thing, and then you would like platform a little bit and get to the next portal and go that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was really cool, but it's also like, where the fuck did this come from? How does she
Yeah.
do this?
Like, I loved every second. I just didn't stop to think about, like, she's fucking teleporting me places. What the fuck is happening? But yeah, it was great.
And speaking of, there was something we wanted to mention that we didn't talk about that was a really aggravating thing that would happen in the game. That I think we were talking about the same thing, where you'd come up to a door and it says, this door is locked. Every door, Cal's opening with the Force. He's just waving his hand and opening the door. You can't open this door from this side. Why the fuck not? You get to the door from the other side and he just forces it up. It's like, oh, okay, that only works from the left side of the door this time. Okay, cool, that makes sense.
You have to unlock that shortcut.
Yeah, like
that actually wasn't what I was talking about. Maybe kind of similar in the fact that I would encounter things in the world that I thought I can interact with, and it would glow red.
oh,
And I was like, oh, this must mean I need to have like dark side powers to move or interact with this thing. No, it just means I don't have the ability or the Force power yet to do it. So it's red telling me I can't do anything with it yet. So I was halfway through the game, I'm speculating Cal's gonna go dark. Like, we're gonna get dark side, like Force lightning and shit, and we're gonna be doing all this other. And I'm not completely wrong. Like, he starts leaning that way, but it didn't lean as hard as I thought the game was telling me it was going to. Everything that was kind of tinted red, whether it was a rock or a door or
it was just a red
interactable
light.
object,
It was a stoplight.
I didn't have the Force ability to lift things up in the ground and throw them back down. That was it. There would be like rocks on the ground where it looked like I could interact with, but it's not glowing blue, it's glowing red. And my mind went, oh, I need to have dark side abilities because dark side is associated with red. But the game's telling me, no, you just don't have the right Force ability to interact with this object yet, and you have to come back here and play with it later. So, but in my mind, I was going like full blown, he's going to be a dark side Jedi by the end of this, and we're going to have this full dark side ending and all this kind of crap. So I extrapolated way more than what the game did, but
you let your mind run wild a little bit. It's
right.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But what did you think of the I guess we'll start with Dagon. What did you think of Dagon for this game? Because the game builds him up as the villain, and by the last quarter, he's really not. There's some other shit that goes on.
Weak.
Okay.
I as a villain, man, what were his motivations? Oh, I still don't understand this character's turn to the dark side. And like, was he just a petulant child that was like Mom said something to me one time that aggravated me, so I'm gonna kill people. Like, it wasn't that literally, guys. I'm just saying it made no sense to me. It made no sense. Like, it was like, oh, I don't know. Like,
I mean, I think there's hints that he's like this brash Jedi and almost wants to fight for a lot of that stuff. And then when it comes down to going after something that he wants and no one supports him with it, which is, he wants to go to Tanalorr, find this safe haven for the Jedi, start a temple, and then when it comes time to set up the place and they get attacked, no one defends him or helps him save the place. They just abandon it and let it fall to the hands of the bad guys, whoever that is that invades. And I think he's pissed off enough that he thinks this is my interpretation, maybe, that he thinks the Jedi betrayed him and starts to get pissed off to try to get back there and find a way back to, I don't know, reclaim that stuff or take an army back there to try to fight whoever's there, and nobody else really wants to do it. And then they have to stop him because he's like fighting back on the other Jedi and stuff, and that's when he loses his arm and all that shit, and they put him in freeze, and I think that's about the gist that I can tell.
Again, I feel like they didn't know what to do for a villain in this game. You know what I mean? Because, like...
Well, really, he's the red herring, right? He's supposed to distract you and not you're not supposed to focus on the actual person that's going to be a problem.
Well, yeah, there's that, but I also, like, they needed a bad guy face. They needed a Sith, which even the one that we get is not actually... It doesn't look like a Sith. You know what I mean? Bode doesn't.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I did not like Dagon very much as a villain. The force arm and dual wielding another lightsaber with a force arm, cool, complete bullshit. That pissed me off at the same time. Very fucking cool looking. Get out of here with that. Like,
I liked in his first couple of fights too, before he has like the force projection arm, when he just has the stump.
Yeah.
And he shoves the stump your way to like force push you, but he doesn't have the arm. So he's just throwing his shoulder at you and the force is hitting you like a punch. Right. Which I thought was a really cool fucking just move that came out of that. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think the fights, like, in the game, the fights with Dagon were good. Yeah. I just, as a story character, I was not a fan.
And maybe I got to read more of that, because I don't read a lot of the databank entries when you get them, so maybe I should just go back and try to see what the write-up is for Dagon, if it lists a little bit more of his motivations and kind of what happened there.
Yeah, it probably could. It is what it is. I liked the other sub-villain better.
Is that Ravis?
Yeah, Ravis I liked.
Which I think he reminded, and correct me if I'm wrong, do you remember watching the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars animated, the 2D Clone Wars animated show that was out way back when?
Oh, yeah. That thing.
Do you remember that one, like, other villain that they had them fight? That was, I think his name was Dirge. He had like the armor on, and I think he had like, because I feel like he's the same species as Ravis, if I'm remembering correctly, because Ravis loses an appendage and then he like has tentacle arms that come out and like reattach it, and I'm pretty sure Dirge was the same way. So that would be a very cool Easter egg, I think, if they called back to that animated series for that species and brought him into this game as someone similar. Because Dirge, I don't think was...
They are the same species.
Okay.
They are a species known as Gendai.
named after...
G-E-N''DAI.
I wonder if it's kind of a nod to Genndy, since he put that species in the cartoon.
Yeah, they probably,
because I think the armor set and stuff, and I didn't realize it with Ravis, with all of Ravis's armor, but it wasn't until he lost the appendage and put it back together that I was like, oh shit, that is like Dirge.
Yeah.
So okay, that's pretty cool then.
Also,
I like that.
Worthy of note, Dirge also has turned up in comics, in Dr. Aphra and some Bounty Hunters comics as well.
Oh, okay, so he is part of the main canon then, because I remember him in like older Legends stuff, but I don't remember if he actually made the way into the new stuff. So that's cool, because Aphra's part of the new canon. She should be in there.
Yeah, Aphra, Dr. Aphra number 10 and 11. You can see Dirge, and then it says Bounty Hunters 35, 36, and 37.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, that's actually really neat to see that popping up.
But yeah, I thought Ravis was cool. I thought the voice actor for Ravis was really good too. I really liked his voice.
Yeah, I honestly I really wanted Ravis to be the main villain. I wanted there to be some further plot of him being, like a hidden Sith or something. Like he's,
Oh yeah,
like it's actually him controlling Dagon or something, corrupting him.
Yeah,
That would have been cool. But all the same, the fight with Ravis also was probably my favorite in the game this time around.
Okay.
Probably. But yeah, I all around not horrible in terms of villains. Video games have done much worse.
Yeah.
But I feel like the first game did better with its Trilla, I think was
Yeah.
a much more interesting and engaging enemy to deal with.
Yeah. Well, let's get to Bode. So Bode's betrayal. Did you see that coming? Was that a surprise to you?
No, I didn't see it coming. But like I kind of had the feeling somebody was gonna turn, and I had no idea who it was gonna be. But then obviously it just made sense for it to be Bode. But
Yeah.
part of me thought like Seer was gonna have snaps or something.
Okay.
I don't know. Like her appearance changed so dramatically between the two games that it was like, oh, maybe there's something going on there. It wouldn't make sense, but maybe there's something that's behind the scenes and we're going to get like a revelatory cutscene or something.
Yeah.
But I didn't really suspect Bode. I figured he was going to be the one that died. Like, I feel like I thought they were trying to build up a friendship with Bode for you so that he was a sacrifice at some point, as opposed to, he does end up dead, of course, but in a different way. Like, I thought he was going to sacrifice himself to save his daughter and like leave his daughter in your care, and she was going to be force sensitive for your new Jedi whatever on Tanalorr,
Right.
which still might be the case in some respect.
Yeah, I fully expect her to be force sensitive whenever she gets a little bit older too.
Right. So yeah, to me it's hard to say anything bad about Bode. It worked because you didn't see it coming, and I didn't find any plot holes with Bode that made me go like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I feel like they kept him ambiguous enough throughout the rest of his story and kept it, he was focused on talking about his daughter. He didn't really talk about what else he did.
Right.
And so, like, a lot. So
yeah, I didn't see. It surprised me. I could tell when they got back to Kobo and everybody's kind of celebrating. Oh, job well done. I'm like, I really thought the game should have been over at that point. I'm like, why are we still going? And everything seems too happy. Something's going to go wrong. I didn't know what that something was going to be. And, looking back, the way Bode just keeps talking about, sort of arguing with Cal about what to do when going to Tanalorr. Like, he really didn't, you could tell he didn't want the whole hidden path to go there. He really just wanted a safe haven for him and his daughter, which you can understand based on what the other stuff happened throughout the game and how he's talked about doing all this for his daughter and trying to keep her safe and all that stuff. That made sense, but I guess I always just kind of thought, oh, they're going to work it out, or they're going to find a nice compromise by the end of this game. I didn't expect him to be that hell-bent on, I'm getting this for me and my daughter, and fuck everybody else. And then he shoots Cordova, you chase him down, you have the fight on top of the whatever that is, monolith or whatever that's in the desert in Jeddah.
mm-hmm.
And when he force pushes you, I was like, oh shit. Like, I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, that part, when he turned, it was like, oh man, now we gotta kill Bode. Like, it's
right,
like,
because you're immediately like, he's just a mercenary guy. Cal could rip this guy apart, and then you get a force pushback, and you're like, oh no, okay, this is much more difficult than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I was wondering at that point, until he does that, like, what's the hook going to be?
Yeah.
Because they didn't really lead you to believe he had force powers at any point.
No.
He motors around on a jetpack and does all this and that, but he doesn't really do anything to make you think that. So yeah, that to me was a really cool moment.
And they never really answer the question. Cal starts to say it in the Mantis afterwards. Is like, he was with us, how didn't I sense it? And then Grease kind of cuts him off and says, don't think about that. So it's never really explained how Bode could be force sensitive and be right next to Cal for numerous encounters, and Cal doesn't pick it up. And really, I guess, if you want to read between the lines, you can kind of spin it where Bode talks about the Jedi had intelligence agents they sent throughout the galaxy to try to gather intel. So if he's basically a spy, you would think maybe he's been trained enough to hide force-sensitive abilities to infiltrate different places. And maybe he just got that good at it that he can be right next to Jedi and hide in plain sight.
Well, my
I can extrapolate
impression,
that and kind of make that make sense.
My impression was he was also hiding it from the Empire.
Oh, yeah.
He was hiding his force sensitivity from everyone.
Well, okay, so that might not be true because according to his backstory, what he explains to Cal, right, is that the Empire is hunting Jedi. They tracked him down, but he wasn't at the house, and that's when his wife died. So I think they know he's force sensitive. Wouldn't they?
Did he say that they were hunting him? Or
They said they were looking for him. Now, I assumed that's because he's force sensitive and they're hunting down force sensitive people.
Or was it because he was a spy?
I could be wrong. I'm
I'd
interpreting
have to look at
if
it
it wasn't
again.
explicitly said as him being force sensitive.
Like, I took it as the Empire does a lot of bad shit. And he wound up as part of that, and they didn't know.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I'd have to,
think
like,
they... See, I'm
look
seeing
at
it a
it
different
again.
way. I think they know who he is and what he's capable of, and that's why they more or less blackmailed him or recruited him. Like, because he sort of says, like, I was running for a while from them, and then I realized I couldn't run anymore and just cut a deal. So he's working for them just to keep his daughter safe.
Right. Yeah, I got that part. I just didn't understand. I guess, like, if that's the case, the part I don't understand is the red saber, and
So the red saber isn't his. He took Dagon's saber.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, I think he stays behind when they need to dispose of Dagon's body, and he takes the saber after Cal leaves.
Okay.
That's why it's already red, because it's not his. It was Dagon's.
So he doesn't actually turn to the dark side. He's just covering his
No.
own ass.
He just has a weapon that he needs because he knows he's going to have to do something to stop Cal later.
Okay.
And
Then it makes more sense. Then what you said makes more, like, all of it makes more sense. See, I thought he had a red, like, I missed the part where he took Dagon's saber. I didn't realize it was the same.
And I think I missed that too. That was, again, I think I got that detail from watching Kind of Funny's spoiler cast where they kind of brought that up, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, that does make more sense. But I don't know how much you've replayed since you've beat it, but one thing I started noticing when I was going back through places where I've already explored and thought I got everything, after you beat the game, there are echoes that are left behind specifically from Bode that Cal can find. So you can go to an area where you were with Bode and you catch an echo, and it's him, like, scheming or trying to figure out how his plan is going to work, and you see him kind of struggle a little bit, but, like, I don't remember if there was one for the saber, if I saw that or not, but, like, there's one moment where I grabbed an echo where it was like, it might have been in Jeddah, in the base that they had with Seer and stuff, and it's Bode talking to himself like, I got it, I know how to turn Cal and how to get to him. It's like, it's love. Him and Mara have a thing here, and I can exploit that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hook he tries to get to maybe even distract Cal somewhere down the line, or push him to try to keep not only just the hidden path, not the hidden path safe, but keep people close to him safe. He's trying to push towards, like, Cal and Mirren, like, this is what you need to save, not everybody else, just her. So it's really cool to find those things, and I don't know how many are scattered around, but I've kind of stumbled across some just from replaying other areas. So I think that's been cool, just as a backstory part of it, to fill in some of the gaps of stuff you may have missed the last time, or stuff that Bode was doing behind the scenes that you didn't know about at the time.
Yeah, I honestly had no idea that was there in, like, a New Game Plus version, so I
That's
haven't
not even
played
New
it
Game
at
Plus.
all.
I'm just replaying some of the areas, like trying to go back and get collectibles and stuff that I missed the first time,
Oh, okay.
and I'm finding them.
So new stuff is there to go check out.
Yeah.
Okay. See, now that's a cool thing to put in. I wish they would have said and like directed you to do that to like go back and look for them.
Yeah. And then I think, with the fight on the mountaintop thing with him and Bode, like the whole part where like you start to fight him, you're thrown off the ledge, and then Cal smacks his head and gets knocked out, and then you just get a respawn cutscene, and I was like, did Cal die? Like what is happening here? I thought it was like making me restart the level, and then you respawn, and then you come back as Seer.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, maybe Cal did die. What the hell just happened? And that whole sequence is probably one of the most memorable things in this game for me, is playing as Seer, defending the temple, and eventually running into fucking Darth Vader.
Yes, and I guess that was awesome because they made her way more powerful than they ever implied that she was. Like, she is so much stronger than Cal while you're trying to go and fight everything, like just the normal soldiers that you fight along the way before you get to the Vader fight. It is significantly noticeable that you're like...
She's hitting a lot harder than he was, yes.
Yeah, you're like, holy shit. Okay. And then you get to Vader. I will take all the issue in the world with her standing up to basically a draw with Vader. I mean, not really a draw, but she nearly kills him.
Yeah.
And I will take some issue with that. Just because they never implied she was at that level. Like I never got the impression that Seer was this super powerful Jedi. Like she always seemed like a knowledgeable person.
Right.
But
well, I guess,
on the power level to stand up to Vader is pretty significant.
As soon as you get to that point in the game when like she is in that archive and he comes through the door, you're just like, all right, well, she's dead.
Oh yeah, no,
we know Vader lives. She's
right.
not going to survive. It's just a matter of how they're going to frame the fight. So I understand like they got to sort of give her like a pretty good last stand, which I was all for. Like I think that whole sequence was fucking great.
I would have been more for, I guess, like I love the sequence too. I like the whole scene, the arena you fight Vader in being the burning archives, and like that was amazing.
Yeah.
I guess like my issue is I'm trying to think of like, I feel like the way the first game handled Vader was the right way. Your option is stay and die or run. Right. And they didn't even give you the option to fight him. It was run.
Well, at this point, to your point, you're not Cal this time. Like
no.
The first game, you are Cal in that scenario. So Cal has no chance to fight. Like he just has to run.
Right,
and
but she would have been a Jedi
about Seer
Knight.
Being beefed up at this point of the game, that gives you a little bit more of a fighting chance against Vader, I guess.
Right. I just feel like she was a little bit too successful was all I would say. Like it was maybe let her have a good last stand, but this is still Vader we're talking about. This isn't... I mean, if it was, Dagan Gera, say,
right,
that fight occurred with, and that she maybe even beats him or fights him to dying at the end, and that makes him more of a villain, I'd be more willing to buy that. But Vader, man, I don't know. Like, this is supposed to take place, you said, like 10 years now? Was that what you said?
I think it's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith.
So yeah, you're talking 10 years after Vader wipes out the Jedi, and it's just storming through them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I would probably even say that this could be argued to be the point where Vader's at the height of his power as a Sith. Like,
yeah, I probably agree.
The height of the Empire would also be the height of his power, because obviously by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, he's not what he once was.
I guess to make the fights dramatic, because I feel like Vader at this point has other fights similar to, like, even the fight with, you want to compare to like the Obi-Wan series, like,
but she's not
they
Obi-Wan.
End up right, but we're at the point where like every fight Vader has, you can't kill him because he has to be alive, but you want to make it interesting for whoever's playing or watching or whatever it is. So you almost get him on the back foot, and like you have a little bit of that dramatic sense, like, is he going to get knocked down and get back up? But ultimately he has to come out on top. So I get the give and take of the dramatic side of it, and you want to keep it close, but Vader still has to be the one to win. I don't know. I guess I was less unhappy with it. I did like that part and the way they did it.
It's not that I don't like it. I just feel like it just doesn't fit. That's all. I love what
Yeah.
they did. I like how they gave her that last stand. I love it, what it meant for her character and everything. And I like what they did. I just feel like, boy, that makes me question other things. That,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, when it was Ahsoka that probably shouldn't have been able to stand up to him at the time that she did, it's also, that's his Padawan.
Yeah.
You know, there's still part of Anakin in there that knows her and loves her. So I can understand it. When it's some random Jedi that he encounters along his path, I would expect it to be more of a slaughter, if you would. I not that
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, boy, I want to see a slaughter. It's just,
Well, I think there's part of it. I think not to make it that I guess Seer stood a better chance or whatever, but I think there's another echo in Jeddah, one that I remember specifically, where you pick it up and it's Bode basically sending a message to the Empire, like, "Hey, Seer Junda is here. Tell Lord Vader she's here, and they're gonna go if he doesn't show up quickly." So
okay.
he's summoning her, and it could be to the point where like Vader's just sick of sending Inquisitors out there to die, and it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna take care of this. And it's one because he must know, or maybe it's other echoes that maybe I didn't find, but at some point Vader must know that Seer is in charge of the hidden path and trying to get
Right.
this for Jedi, and she's gathering information in the archives and all that stuff. So it's twofold. He wants to destroy any remnants of the Jedi that are in that place. And two, Seer is the biggest threat that he can see. He doesn't give two shits about Cal right now.
No, yeah. Cal is not a threat to him.
Yeah. So as far as he's concerned, he's succeeded in his mission. Seer's dead. The archives are gone. They're burning. They're dead. And he's succeeded. And he might have got the crap kicked out of him a little bit more than we wanted him to, but he's successful.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else for that. I just thought it was just such a cool fucking moment. And it's one that's going to stick with me for a while.
I agree.
That special part of that specific part of the game.
It's honestly, it's a set piece moment for the game.
Oh yeah.
So that's a big part of why it works. Which is something I feel like the fights with Dagon were really missing.
I mean, there were some of his I think that were pretty cool.
Like the one atop the thing, the final fight with
Yeah,
Dagon.
the third
it was
fight
like,
where he like flips the room and you're on the ceiling. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Right, I just meant the environment itself was boring. Like the fight was cool as shit when he flips the room upside down. That
Yeah.
was cool. I just mean like it was really kind of a plain, boring room. Just a round room that.
Yeah, I can
know.
see that. Yeah. I guess just sort of spinning into like with the Vader stuff. Any other favorite moments that we didn't talk about that happened during the game for you?
The Rancor, which you told me about, that was
Oh,
just
that fucking Rancor! Goddamn.
was
Was that a bitch for you? Because that was one of the hardest fights I've had in this game.
I think that's just me playing a lot of Dark Souls games and dealing with
Okay.
large beast type bosses. Where I'm sure the lightsaber battles for you get more consistent, where you understand when you're supposed to do what. Because it's simpler to understand that in this game. Like, I should parry when it's coming at me.
So most of the human bosses that I've fought, I was okay with, and I may have like Dagon. I feel like I beat him every encounter the first try, which was
Same.
surprising to me.
Dagon
but-
was not hard.
Yeah, the Rancor and some of the other fucking big beasts and creatures that are in the world, that is what gave me the most frustrating part. Some of those encounters. There was the Rancor, and there was another one at the droid camp on Kobo, where you're on a platform, you're up top. They put a collectible right in the middle of this little this drop thing, like Jabba's palace kind of drop floor, and I go to get it, and then the floor comes out. I drop into a pit, and there's one of those beasts from the first game that has the tongue that comes out and grabs you.
Yeah.
That thing fucking, I had to walk away from that one and come back to it because I couldn't fucking beat him. But those are the two that stick out to me as like having the most problems for me with my fighting. The Rancor and that fucking thing. I died so many times.
So, One thing I'll tell you, when you're fighting beast bosses in any Souls-like game, there is a very simple formula that basically always works. Not as well in this game for all of the large beasts, but it works fairly well. And the answer is get under its legs and poke it in the ass. That sounds horrible. But it's literally just fight its ass. Don't fight its front. If you want to just make the fight easier. Like, I understand when you're fighting a Rancor, it was hard for me to just fall to that strategy because it's like, oh, this is awesome. And you want to stay in front of it because it's a Rancor and you want to look at it and it's cool. But if you just hop up underneath it and swing away at the, you know what I mean, at the back end of it, usually the AI is not good enough on these things. They just don't keep up.
Yeah, I think I couldn't figure out the pattern. And it was like I would jump down to the Rancor and I could block some of the swipes he was doing, but it was every time he went to like do the one-hit kill, lunge, and grab thing.
Yeah.
Is that I would misjudge the timing every fucking time. And it either felt like he was winding up too slow, so I would jump too early, and by the time I'm coming down to my jump, he'd grab me, or I wouldn't jump, or I think it's going to go slow, and I'd jump late, and then he'd grab me as I'm leaving the ground, and it literally happened 4 or 5 times in a row. I would just jump in the pit, he'd grab me, I'd die, and then I'd be like, motherfucker, and then I'd have to go back and do it again, and the same thing would happen, and I would get so pissed off.
So that's something they started doing a lot with the Souls-type bosses, where they have, like, the delayed wind-ups. Okay. Where it's like sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's medium, and they're going to show you, and then it's quick, or they're going to show, and you think it's here, but it's not, and they're going to keep going back, and then they did that so that bosses would have replayability on difficulty where maybe they're less predictable than the same swing every time, where it's like every time it does this, I just do this and punish it. So it's annoying, and the delayed wind-ups suck, but there is a purpose to them. I'm still on the fence of whether I actually like things like that or not in games, but there is a purpose to it, and it is replayability, which is a good thing, but the frustration factor it creates is also annoying as hell. That one specifically, though, like the grab you and one-hit kill thing, it just made me think about Galaxy of Heroes. Did you ever play the Rancor raid in Galaxy of Heroes where like you take your team in and it just has a random one-shot pick your guy up and eat him that it uses to wipe out your squad over time? It has like a short recharge. It just reminded me of that, where it's just like, you're dead. It's
I kind of forgot about that actually.
Kind of annoying, but also it's a Rancor. That's what they do. They you know, like they don't have a whole lot in their arsenal. They have claws and a mouth. That's, you know.
Any other favorite moments?
I'm trying to think, you know, like I would say, again, for me, it's going to come back to Grease, and Grease managing to unleash himself as a pilot a bit toward the end when they're going through the abyss.
Great. Yeah.
I love that. One, for his character, two, it was just fun. When he starts when Grease starts having fun, I'm having fun. So it's, you know, it was good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I think we already talked about, like Mirren flying Cal around the drill, I thought was fucking cool. Bode's betrayal was another favorite moment for mine, just because it blindsided me. Like, really, I did not see it coming, and especially the Force abilities. That was like, what the fuck? Seer versus Vader, I think, was a big thing for me. The last fight with Dagon, like we mentioned, fighting on the ceiling, I thought was memorable. The other moment that I think stuck out to me that I thought was really cool, because I've never really seen it in anything before, was when Dagon unfreezes, has a conversation with Cal, and in the process takes his lightsaber apart and bleeds the crystal. Mm-hmm. So it's something that's in Star Wars lore, that this is how lightsaber crystals turn red, is there's a dark side ability that you use on the crystal, and you basically hurt the crystal enough that it quote-unquote bleeds and turns red. Now, I've read about it, I've heard about it, I've never seen it. To see it somewhere actually happen sort of in real time like that, I thought was really fucking cool.
I agree.
Actually, one thing for Bode that I sort of want to go back to, did you have any inkling or expectation to think that he might actually be redeemed at the end or somehow saved? Did you think he was going to die?
I thought he was going to die, but I didn't think he needed redeemed. I think what he was doing was entirely understandable, and I mean, he's doing what he thinks is best for his daughter, which is something that any person on this planet will forgive. It's
Okay.
like you're not just killing people to kill people. It's I'm trying to save my daughter from the
Yeah.
Empire. I'm not trying to help the Empire. I'm trying to save my daughter from the Empire by working for the Empire. Like
I remember I was streaming that part, and I think Jason, Ian's friend, was actually there watching me at that point, and he just kept saying, "Bode fucking sucks. I hope he dies." Like, just flat out, he is ready for this guy to be murdered. Like, I was like, the game's kind of setting it up where like they're really trying to not kill him, so I wasn't sure if they were actually gonna go to that point.
I mean, I thematically I could have seen him turn on the Empire and decide to side with you against them, and I
Right.
would have been fine with that as a turn as well, like
Yeah.
after the fight. But
At that point, I think he's gone a little bit too far with murdering other people. That it's like, I don't know if he like I would have been more surprised if they did sort of bring him back and keep him alive for something else later. I kind of had the expectation that he was going to go.
Bode is Snoke.
But even with Cal and sort of the revenge element that Cal starts to go through and starts leaning towards the dark side a little bit, you get a little bit more of those abilities. And the fact that he just like double taps him when he's on the ground like that at the end, I was like, oh shit! Like he is not happy with Bode.
I mean, understandably, you know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean. Like I get why Cal's so upset. It like I said, to me, if it was for any other reason but to protect your child, then it's like, okay, this guy's a piece of shit, but he is, I don't know, to me, Bode was genuinely doing what he thought he had to do for his child.
Yeah, I get it. I think I get it. I understand. I think I would just, again, wasn't sure if they'd actually sort of pull the trigger on that and do it or not. And I'm curious to see what happens, because I feel like they're laying breadcrumbs for Cal and just sort of like the struggle that he's going through and how that's going to affect him going forward. So I'm curious if the third game, like, like I said, I was expecting him to go a little bit harder into the dark side. If they do a third game, if you start to go a little bit more down that path, or where that story kind of takes him, or if he kind of brings himself back. But I feel like they're putting breadcrumbs in there that he's going to go a little bit deeper before maybe coming backwards.
So Cal is Snoke. That's
maybe.
That's what we're getting to. Cal is Snoke. He's going to meet the Emperor. The Emperor made Snoke, so he's going to make Cal into Snoke. Calling it now. I will bet
On
you
record.
$0 that is the case.
As far as the game, have you done any of the collectible side missions? Are you still going through that stuff, or
No,
you
I
plan
don't.
on, like 100%ing the game or anything like that?
No, I don't. I doubt that I'll play it again until maybe the third game comes out. If the third is billed as like the end of that trilogy for Cal, I'll
Okay.
probably replay the first two again.
Yeah.
But collectibles, I don't really do much of anymore. Like sometimes it depends on the collectibles in games. If there's like a catch to them, like a game to it, then I find myself more engaged. Whereas this feels like it's just go get it. Like just a fetch thing, just go here, get the collectible, go there, get the collectible, and there's not a whole lot of like.
Did you find the like the holo table thing, the combat scenarios that they have at the bar?
I found the ones you find in the wild, like where you come across
So
an
there's-
echo and you have a fight.
No, so there's some characters that you find, and it's a duo that you find somewhere, and they come back to Grease's place, and upstairs next to the fish tank, they go in a little back room somewhere, and I think you have to meet some other characters along the way too, but it's like a combat scenario holo board where you play a game, and it's like you have to pick, almost like totally accurate battle simulator type of thing, where you pick like enemies based on points you have.
Okay.
You go up against another opponent that picks other enemies, and you see who survives, and you play a couple waves. So you get a couple collectibles that way based on who you're playing. But every enemy that BD scans is added to your roster of stuff that you're able to throw in the table.
Oh, okay. I was scanning all of the enemies when BD was able to do that. Like,
So then your roster should be pretty stacked. But if you go up there, because I started doing some of those, I think I have like 2 or 3 people to go through still. But you can get like, I think if you need to get, the collector in me, if you go for like all the priorite strides or the Jedi Temple scrolls or all those other little collectibles, some of the people you fight will reward you with one of those. So you have to go through them to get all the collectibles for that kind of stuff anyway.
Okay. Yeah, see, like,
But I thought that was a really fun kind of mini game trying that out.
when they're attached to lore, like scanning the enemies where gives you a little information about them, stuff that's attached to lore I tend to be more interested in.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of the collectibles here are like, you can put a different color on your lightsaber. I'm like, man, I'm already pretty much done with the game at this point. Do I really care enough to go hunt down different colors for the lightsaber that, you know what I mean? I'm done. I beat the game already. Like, I'm not going to use these.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, I'm still doing it. I like all my collectibles and stuff. So I'm probably going to try to see if I can 100% it. We'll see. Because I do want to actually play it again. Like, I'd like to try to bump up difficulty, try New Game Plus, and see if I can get through it again. I don't know if I'll do it right away, but it's definitely something I want to come back to and play. I liked it that much that I think I want to go back through and play it again.
So do be aware. I don't know if you're aware of this with Souls games, but if you do New Game Plus, that will bump up the difficulty on its own in Souls games typically. So you may not want to bump up the difficulty and New Game Plus at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping, like,
I don't know that
at least some of the
game
abilities
does it.
and stuff carry over. So I'm hoping with a little bit more, like having Cal a little bit more stacked, I think, at the beginning, even if the difficulty goes up, that it will help mitigate that a little bit.
Well, that's the idea of New Game Plus, is like the beginning of the game is much easier, whereas typically in Souls games and stuff like that, the beginning tends to be harder, your first playthrough.
Right.
And then you just kind of plow through the beginning of it, because it's all percentage based. So, like, the enemy that had 100 health that gets 10% more, it really doesn't take another swing to beat, especially since your damage is at end game now.
Right.
Whereas the enemy at the end of the game that had 10,000 health that gets 10% more, it's adding some more time to that fight that you're going to be in, because your damage hasn't improved that much more over the course of the game.
Couple other quick questions maybe before we end here. As far as some of the customization we were talking about, what does your Cal look like?
Oh,
just out of curiosity.
I gave him a mustache and a mohawk. What
was the outfit for him too?
I don't remember the names.
Anything specific you were running with, or did you switch it out here and there?
I would switch it out when I got new stuff, but there was one, I don't remember what they called it, but it looked a little bit like Obi-Wan's like General Kenobi armor that you would see in the, where it's like white. It was like the pointed plastic armor kind of stuff that he had. I kind of liked using some of that. That was kind of fun. But yeah, I didn't really stick to one, and they all had random names, so telling you which one, I really couldn't off the top of my head, but definitely mustache mohawk combo.
I was rolling with his like basically default outfit. I was changing the colors a little bit because I really thought the design of him just in the game I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I think I did give him a little bit of a beard. I didn't really change the hairstyles too much. I think on my next playthrough I'll probably give him like the long wavy hair. I think I kind of like that look, so we'll see how it looks. As far as like outfits, like I pre-ordered the deluxe edition, so I had like a Han Solo outfit that I think I floated around there for a little bit. I played
was it
with
like the blue pants and brown vest Han Solo, or was it the?
It was the pants and vest, but you could change up the colors too. So I think I did a couple variations there, and then like there was a Luke outfit that had like it started with like the yellow jacket from A New Hope that he gets with the Han Solo looking pants, but yeah. And you get some different colors there to play with. So I was wearing that for a while. Eventually, I think I moved to... it was basically like a shirt, and then I had like a shoulder bandolier that really reminded me of the look for Kyle Katarn, his look. So I rolled with that for a little while. That might have been what I used to finish the game, too. I think I stuck with the Kyle Katarn look for a while. But I really like that one. And then lightsaber colors, I was going with... started with blue for a while, went to cyan. I think I used that for a lot. Did green for a little bit just to see what it looked like. I think cyan was like my main choice. Now I think when I've been playing, I think I was using the indigo, which is like a bluish purple kind of look, which I think looks actually really cool in the game. Did you have a lightsaber color of choice?
Well, I was using, on my hilt, I was going with like ivory and gold. Like it was
I
like
did a little bit of that too.
Ivory-ish color with, gold accent, and then I was orange. Same as the
Okay,
first
your
game.
blade was orange. Okay.
Yeah, orange is my favorite color, and they made orange an option. It's not quite turning to the dark side. It's I don't know. Like nobody really has an orange lightsaber in
Yeah, not
canon,
really.
so I don't really know what the orientation is. I mean, it's
Right.
closer to a reddish color, but I don't really count that as dark side because it's
Yeah.
orange, not red.
I just think it's fun. Like, there's enough customizable options in there that I think everybody can sort of have a different cal that's quote unquote theirs, and I think that's just kind of cool to see.
I think the one thing that pissed me off with the lightsaber customization was as soon as you get the cross hilt, which unlocks like the Kylo Ren stance, if you will, like the big
Yeah.
heavy swings, which I don't know, they felt awkward to me because the lightsaber's not any heavier, regardless of where. Like it seemed like it.
That's
felt
always
like he
been
was
my argument
using it
too.
heavier.
But
It's not the dark saber. You know what I mean? Like the dark saber's meant to have that to it or whatever, but it's not that. Like it's I don't know.
my argument has always been the blade is light. Light doesn't weigh anything. So my thought process, and some people will argue this with me, just because I think the way Lucas explains it is the lightsaber is supposed to be like Excalibur. They're supposed to be heavy. They're supposed to be two-handed. They're supposed to be only for the worthy type of thing.
Sure.
I always spun it the other way. In my head canon is that lightsabers are awkward to use because all the weight is in the handle. Typically with a sword, there's a weight in the blade, so you can account for that when you're fighting. If the blade is light, there's no weight there.
fencing.
So it's awkward to try to fight with it because you're not accounting for any weight for the blade. It's just all in the hilt.
It's fencing, which is which is really how lightsaber fights would play out. Because you just have to touch people. You don't it
Right.
destroys whatever it touches. So why are you going to bother taking these wide, strong swings when all you got to do is poke, and you just poke holes through people? Like it's so much easier and more effective to poke. That's all people will do. But the part that pissed me off about the lightsaber customization is you can have a single lightsaber, you can have the double lightsaber, you can have the Darth Maul, double-sided lightsaber, and you can have the cross hilt. But I can't have a cross hilt double-sided lightsaber. And I couldn't have a cross hilt in one hand with a Shoto in the other.
Yeah.
I wanted those options. Like, let me have the cross hilt added in. I know a cross hilt double-bladed lightsaber would be dumb as shit. The person using it would constantly be hurting themselves. But is there anything more dark side than that? No. But having like the option to have it with like maybe a little short saber as well would have been really cool. And the addition of like the blaster into it, it was something I had spoiled for me was the blaster stance. And the whole time I was thinking we're getting Ezra's lightsaber build.
Oh.
Had that been the case, I would have only used the blaster and saber.
Yeah.
As it was, I didn't use the blaster at all. I
was
fired
my
it when they
primary
trained,
stance.
and then I was single saber the rest of the way.
See, that was once I got that, I used that a lot. I started alternating between blaster and crossguard, and then single and crossguard.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised I used the crossguard as much as I did, honestly, because I didn't think I was gonna like it. But I think just the heavy hits that it was doing, I couldn't not use it. I felt like I was getting through enemies quicker, so I just kept at it.
Yeah,
But
crossguard was cool.
I liked what the blaster gave me as far as range, where I could keep my distance and just try to keep enemies at bay if I needed to take a little bit to heal up or get my bearings or something. That seemed like it worked really well for me.
That's fair. I would just use the saber throw.
See, I didn't use that as much. I definitely didn't use the abilities that I unlock and a lot of the force powers as much as I should have. I was primarily just kind of like going for the lightsaber hits and trying to hit them, and that my combat expertise I think definitely needs some work. It's something I have to play around with more of the variety with it.
I'll give you something super fun to use, and it's real simple. Use your crossguard, have your heavy attack ready, but first run directly into a group of enemies, use the force pull to pull everybody in the range around you, do the heavy attack with the crossguard, and just lay down massive damage to everybody in a radius. It's awesome.
Okay.
It works too for like the double-bladed, like the double-sided lightsaber. It works really well with that too to pull everybody in and then just have sweeping damage all around you. Because that one has the one where you like throw it and it zips around all around you.
Right, I've seen that. Yeah.
So using those two in combo was fun. But I still tended to stick to the single saber.
And I think this is the another chalk this up for just being a good game is that they have enough options in here that you and I played the same game completely differently.
Yeah.
Like our cows look different. We're using different stuff. The abilities we were using were different. The lightsaber stances we were using were different.
Welcome to what is so good about Dark Souls. Welcome. Just just dip your toes in, and maybe you'll figure it out that you can play that game any way you want, and that's what makes it so great.
I mean, I'm maybe a little bit more open to it than I was before, just after playing this game. But I think I have to put a little bit more time into this game before I really want to venture out into other things. But this obviously, like this and Fallen Order, get me just because it's Star Wars. Like I wouldn't play these games probably if it wasn't for Star Wars.
That's fair.
So we'll see if it gets me to branch out anymore. Oh, I know one thing else I wanted to bring up, just as a kudos to people designing video games like this, is that Spider-Man did this too. But the customization that you do to Cal, since they're doing all the cutscenes like in engine, all of that stuff comes over in the cutscenes. Mm-hmm. So whatever your Cal looks like, you see him in all the cutscene. It doesn't default to like, default look Cal, and then when the cutscene's over, you're back to what you look like.
It's not pre-rendered, which is
right.
Yeah, one of the things I think they could do that a lot of other games in this genre have done that would be cool, since they're not doing pre-rendered cutscenes, is let you customize the other characters in your crew too.
Oh yeah,
like just fuck around with Grease's third or fourth arm, whatever you want to call it, like the the mechanics of that. Mess around with Marin's outfit and what Seer looks like. They let you do it to BD, so why not the rest?
I was gonna say, did you customize BD at all? I did a little bit.
It didn't change enough, and he's not visible enough for me to have cared a lot. I did his colors, and that was about it.
Yeah, I think I swapped a couple parts that I liked, but once I got a look for him that I liked, I never really changed it. I put a couple different colors in him. That was about it. Yeah. But any other final thoughts, or we'll kind of close it up? We don't usually do proper video game reviews, but I think we will probably try to give this a rating before we're done.
I think it could be a good start of a series where we actually do this every now and then, because I don't remember us ever doing an actual video game review.
Yeah, I don't remember if we really did either.
It would be fun to do some of these.
The only thing with video games is they're tougher than most, and this one's a little bit different, I think, because it has it's a single player game, so there's a linear path to quote unquote finish the game with the story.
Well, there's a lot of those these days. I'm sure.
Right, but I don't primarily play a lot of them, I guess. Spider-Man could be another one for sure, because that one I would definitely play.
Wolverine comes out someday. That the people making Spider-Man are making Wolverine, so
they might be few and far between. But yeah, I guess for the more single player-y type things, I think that primarily what I end up playing is either multiplayer stuff or live service games, which don't really have an ending. So we could talk about them, but they change and vary all the time, so it's hard to get a definitive. I guess.
But I mean, you could review
really done.
I don't know, you could review the season that they're on of whatever game you're on, because they all do season passes and changes and stories for seasons or stuff like that, where even Call of Duty changes stuff for the seasons. Where Warzone plays differently and the game plays stuff like that happens, but I don't know if it warrants a whole review.
We'll have to see. I'd like to see what the other guys are playing too. We'll have to see if we can all get on the same page with something to try to get everybody through it at the same time. Because I think that's the other thing is, I know Ian gets through some stuff, but he plays some different stuff than we do. I mean, you and I even play different stuff than each other too. And I know Andy doesn't play as much as the rest of us, and his back catalog is just exploding. So I don't know what we could get everybody on the same page to try to do. But yeah, we could try to figure that out and see if we can find some.
Sure. But to your point, anything more with this game? No. I think we said a lot. I think we said enough.
I think the last thing I want to bring up is I've had a lot of fun, which I'm trying to do now, is go back and finish all the bounty hunters, hunt them down.
I did that in the first game, and then they just started feeling repetitive to me.
Okay. I mean, some of them are. I don't want to... part of Kind of Funny's review is they started getting to the bounty hunters, and they said if you finish the tree and get all the way up, there's a good boss to fight at the end there. Oh. And I heard a name, and I don't know if that's the one you fight or if they were comparing to that bounty hunter, but I kind of want to get in there and see if that's the case or not. So I'm trying to work my way up the tree. I'm about halfway done.
What's the name?
Boba Fett was tossed around. So I don't know if you fight Boba Fett or not, but I want to see what that's like. again, when I was watching their spoiler cast review, they were talking about this, the getting into the spoilers of the bounty hunters. They said something about Boba Fett. I stopped watching because I didn't know if that was the spoiler or if it's going to go somewhere else. But
Okay.
I'm going to try to get there and check it out. So I didn't
I'm
get
trying
there
to
yet.
add up like how old would Boba be at that point, and it's not very old. Like he would be like maybe 20.
Yeah, young
Ish.
Fett, probably.
So I was
mean,
just trying to add
we'll
up
see.
like what would happen there.
But again, if the way the conversation was going in the video that I watched, they might have said, I thought it was going to be Boba Fett, and maybe it was someone else, but I just stopped watching because I didn't know where the conversation was going, and I didn't want it spoiled for me. So
Do we
we'll
canonically
see.
end up giving Boba Fett the dent?
I figure it's got to be either Boba Fett or Cad Bane. Like, I could see either one of those. If it's
Or
not Boba
Dengar.
Fett, I could see Cad
Or
Bane.
Bosk?
Or yeah. So, you know, there's a wide range of bounty hunters, but if you're picking a name, I think those are the two for me that I'd be really excited to see and just see what
IG-88.
happens if you fight them. So,
I'd
yeah,
be kind
there's...
of I'd be kind of amped for IG-88. That would be kind of
Yeah.
fun.
I mean, up until now, like you said, most of the ones I'm fighting are all generic ones that look a little bit similar, the same. They have the same
That's
kind of
what they
moves
did
as
in
some of
the
the other
first
bounty
game.
hunters. They looked like some of the other, yeah, right, some of the ones from the first game that you sort of fought. So, but it seemed like there was something there. I just don't know what it is or who it is. So I'm trying to get through that tree to see what happens. But
Well,
I'm on the verge of trying to replay some of this stuff to see what else I can find. But
if it is Boba Fett, I guess I'll have to do that because I'm not going to miss a Boba Fett boss fight. Like that's I'm not missing that.
well, do you want me to get there and let you know? Yes,
I mean,
or
I
no
can just
before...
Google it. Like,
Okay.
You know, like I won't spoil it for you, but I can always just Google it.
That's fair. Yeah, I was trying to just see if I could stumble upon it and see what happens from there. But yeah, that's the last thing I got. I'm still working through the game. I'm excited to try to keep chipping away at some of the stuff that I missed the first time. Go through some of the collectibles. I'm still going through the Jedi temples. That was another thing I guess we didn't talk about. I think there's something you get if you do all 7 on Kobo, which I think I have 6 of the 7. I have to figure out what the 7th one is, because there's a part of the story that takes you like sort of underground to some sort of, maybe when you're aligning the dish before you go to Tanalorr. I think there's a place you go to, and as soon as you get down in the tunnel, there's to your left there's 7 terminals that, depending on how many Jedi temples you unlock, are colored green or red. And I think I had a lot of red ones there when I first got in there, and maybe only a couple greens. And there's a save point right in front of them, and then to the right of the save point, right in front of a pane of glass, there's a terminal that the map is telling me there's a collectible there on the terminal, which I think should be an upgrade maybe for BD1 or something. But I can't interact with the terminal. My best guess is I don't get whatever's in that terminal until I've gotten all the terminals to the left green from doing all the temples.
That makes
So
sense.
that's something else I need to try to get through and figure out where that is and what I get from there. So I think there's a lot of replayability there, which I think is really cool, and it's helping me not want to put the game down after beating the story, which is not something I did for the Fallen Order. Fallen Order, I beat the game, and that was it. I didn't go back and play anything else. I just moved on. I had every intention to go back, but I never did. This one I'm finding a lot more difficult to put down and try to play other stuff. I'm really having a lot of fun with it. So with that being the case, all right, let's tie up with a rating. Mike, what do you think you give this one out of 10?
Out of 10, I'd go an 8.5. It's really good. It could use a bit of polishing. And some of the story beats were a little off for me. But all around, it's a really fun game. If you like Star Wars, it's going to bump this up for you. Obviously, I love Star Wars, but I'm trying to give it an objective rating without like being like, oh god, it's the best lightsaber gameplay they've ever made. It is. And if you're looking for that, this is the game to do it in. So, you know, but I can't rate it just on that. I have to, you know, there is some minor issues that I think drag it down to an 8.5 for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm was debating if I'd give this a 10 because I absolutely love it that much. I think I'm gonna go with 9.5 only because some of the technical issues I would have liked 60 frames solid for this game. I think it just would have looked that much better that way. And just some of the maybe buggy, frustrational parts for me. Not that I had a lot, but it kind of just makes me not want to give it a perfect score. But again, all that aside, I absolutely love this game, and I'm having a hard time not playing it. I definitely want to replay it again, which I don't say a lot for a lot of single player games. Once I beat the story, sometimes most of the time it's just move on, get to the next one. But this has been really enjoyable, and I'm really looking forward to actually playing through it again. I doubt I'll stream the second playthrough. I might just do that on my own. I've kind of stopped streaming it since I beat the story. But if anyone is curious and wants to see me go through it again on harder difficulty or New Game Plus or something, let me know. I can try to stream that, but I wasn't planning on it. We'll see if I can pick another game to stream. I know there's other single player games in my back catalog I need to get through, so I gotta kind of pick one. Oh, we talked about this the one time we did the back catalog episode, right? We each kind of picked a game that we should be playing after that. I don't think I ever did. I think BioShock was the game I landed on from you guys telling me that's what I need to play, and I don't think I ever did that.
You want a 10? Play BioShock. You want an actual 10? Play the remastered BioShock, obviously, because why wouldn't you?
I have it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's on Game Pass, or maybe it's on the Sony. Maybe it's on the PlayStation version.
The remastered, like the BioShock collection on Xbox One, it was like $10 or something for all 3 games. So I bought that like years ago. I just haven't done anything with it yet. So
well, then
this might have been decided. Maybe BioShock is the next one I stream whenever I get there. Whenever I finally get a chance to put down Jedi Survivor, BioShock might be the next one.
BioShock is a 10. Mine was Metroid Dread, which I attempted and did not like, so I put it down. It was the first time I actually played a 2D Metroid and was like, It just, I don't know, I wasn't feeling it, but I did try it. I didn't put it down for lack of anything but joy. It was a lack of joy while playing, so it is what it is.
I think Ian was what, Metal Slug or and I forget what we chose for Andy. Fuck. I'll have to go back and listen to that. We gotta double check with these people and see if they played what they were supposed to play.
I think Andy might have been Fallen Order.
I can't remember. I'll have to go back and listen. We'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
Check our math. Let us know if we need Andy to start playing Fallen Order based on our decision from last time. All right. Well, that's it for us. If you've enjoyed the show, please support us. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to give us a share on social media. You can follow or subscribe to the show. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Anchor, Stitcher. Hopefully, anywhere you're finding podcasts, you can find us. You can check us out on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/BryGuysSuperFriends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, any of that stuff there. Try to email me, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. I will not check it, but it's a legit email. I swear to God it works. Hit us up on Twitter @BGSuperFriends that I will see and respond to. As I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, if you want to watch or go back and watch some of the VODs that I have for the Twitch stream I did for Jedi Survivor, those videos are up on my page. That is Jedi Bry Guy, Jedi with an I, Bry with a Y. You can check it out there. Anywhere we decide to, we decide to do another live show. If we record that live, we'll be doing it on Twitch, so you can feel free to stop there and check it out. We haven't really planned one in a while, so I don't know how soon we'll do one, but if we decide to do one in the future, that's where we'll do it. Other than that, I think that's it. On behalf of Mike and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.